welcome back to my channel. I'm Caroline, the original Dragon Lady, and if you're new, you're very welcome. And if you're a seasoned dragon traveller with me, then welcome back. I'm going to do another FAQ for you. So a little while ago on my social media, we put out some questions, and one of the questions that we asked was, dragons as guardians of the land, give us your questions, please. And we had we had some fantastic questions come back. And one that I want to address today is, how do we interact? How do we know they're happy with the land they are guardians of? How do we help? And how can we tell we're on a dragon's land? So I'll take each of those in turn. So first off, I'm going to do a plug on my book. So in here, which is How to Live with Dragons, there is a section on working with the dragons of the land. It's actually in part 2, and it's called The Spiritual Warriors of Earth. And this is what they had to say to me. In part 2, we begin working with the frequency and a whole set of new energies of energy and dragons. All of the dragons and work covered in the following chapters encompass holding, activating and anchoring new frequencies, light codes, personal and planetary DNA coding for our collective and spiritual evolution and advancement. We are asked to anchor the light into the world wherever we are and send it out with no attachment, outcome or agenda, which is what the dragons had said to me. So chapter 8 is the dragons of the land. And the dragons of the land consist of 2 separate clans. So a group of dragons is called a clan, if you didn't know. So the guardians of the land and sacred sites and earth dragons. So they're the two like guardians, if you like, of earth dragons. So interacting with the dragons of the land, how do you interact with the dragons of the land, and how do you know if you're on their land? So I'll take those two together. The easiest way to know if you're on a dragon's land is to connect to the earth. Now, I talk about this in the book, actually, and I think I might have already done a video on it or mentioned it in a previous video. A while ago, I was at St Catherine's Hill in Winchester, which is an old Iron Age fort, and on the top is the labyrinth. And I'd gone back one particular day to dowse the ley lines that were up there and see, because I'd found them, and I wanted to sort of follow where they went. Anyway, for whatever reasons, the energy kept disappearing on me. I couldn't connect into it. And I've got this nudge from the dragons to go and walk the labyrinth instead. So I did. And when I got to the centre of the labyrinth, this female dragon sort of slid her head up my leg and sort of settled her head, sort of nuzzled at my hip. And I hadn't until that point, I knew there were dragons there, but I hadn't connected with them, and I hadn't connected with her. And it transpired that she was the dragon of the land there, or the guardian dragon there. So the answer is to sit quietly, connect with the land, and ask the dragons to join you. Now, they may come up, if you're in that quiet space, they may come and join you without asking them. Like this particular dragon did that day. I just, that I was nudged probably by her to connect with her, but I hadn't sort of consciously made that connection. So that's one way of doing it. Now, another way of understanding where there's dragons, generally speaking, where you've got hills, you've got dragons. Where you've got mountains, you've got dragons. And quite often where you've got water, you'll have dragons as well. So if you've got a hill or a mountain, and there's water along the bottom, like in the valley, or the lower levels, you'll find there's be dragons in both areas, very likely. What else was I going to say to you? Oh yeah, now how do we know they are happy with the land they are guardians of? I've got to be honest, they're not overly impressed with us. I connected, again, I've talked about this in my book, How to Live with Dragons. I connected a couple of years ago with the female dragon of the tour. Now, she carries a very similar energy and colouring, actually, to the dragon at St Catherine's Hill in Winchester. Now, potentially, it could be the same dragon that's the guardian of that whole strip, because it's a dragon songline that goes through there. That's what goes through there. And so potentially she could be the same dragon. I'm not sure she is. So I've sort of talked about there was two separate dragons. And again, that information, I dare say, will come as and when it's right, if I need to know there were separate dragons or if they are one and the same. Because coloration wise, she's very similar colour blue. Anyway, when I connected into the female dragon of the tour, she carries actually quite it feels like a Magdalene type energy, Mary Magdalene type energy. And again, she's that blue, that beautiful blue colour. And she said to me, all the dragons, the guardians of these sites are tired. They're worn out. Because what's happened is these ancient sites are not used as sacred sites in the same way that they were when they were first built, you know, thousands of years ago. And we don't have the same level of ceremony and reverence for the land that we had thousands of years ago. And what happens, and I'm going to use the worm loosely, the term loosely. They become play points for adults and children. So we visit these places because we're in wide open space, quite often at high elevation. And we love, oh my God, it's just blissful being there. And what happens if we're unaware is that we shed our garbage, we shed our baggage, and we leave it behind in the land. And the dragons have got to clear that up. And they're tired because there's so much unawareness or lack of awareness around these sacred sites, because people are drawn to them that are not necessarily spiritual. Even the spiritual people do it. We're all guilty of it. We've all been there. We've all done it. And we visit these places and we feel fabulous when we leave. And it's because we've left some of that stuff or all of that garbage we've been carrying around at the site. Because quite often they are healing sites. And the dragon's job is to clear it up. Well, there's so many of us doing it now. They've just got tired. And so our job is to help clear the energy through these sites. And we can just do that with intention. Because each of these sites join up. They are on what's known as the grid or the matrix. And so they're not ley lines, they're something separate. And they join together. And this energy just flows, keeps flowing around the planet. So it's part of the collective consciousness. The dragons call it the super information highway. And so approach these sites with reverence. Take your rubbish home with you, metaphorically and literally. Or do some healing before you go up there. Because by leaving it on the land, by releasing it, and we've all been taught this, I was taught it as well. Let all your, let all your negativity, all your doubt, all your fear, all your worries, all your whatevers, anything that doesn't serve you, release it into the land. Let Mother Earth transmute and transform it into something positive that she needs. It's become too much. Become too big, and she can't do that now, and the dragons can't keep up with it either. So the way to do it is, if you are going to release into the land, imagine there's a bowl under your feet or something like that, or some kind of receptacle under your feet. And all your concerns and worries go into that. Then ask your dragons, your own personal dragons, not the dragons of the land, to burn it off. Or you can maybe tie it, you know, feel your, visualize yourself standing on a rug. And let it all fall onto the rug. And then when you're done, visualize it being tied up and going up into the ether, and ask the fire dragons to come in and burn it off. Transmute it into positivity that will then float down onto the sites. So there's ways of doing it. So that was that. That's that bit. What else did they ask? So that's how we can help. It's actually by not leaving our emotional garbage behind, our emotional pain behind. By knowing you're on Dragon's Land, you will feel them if you stop and tune in with them. The dragons will come and greet you. And if you ask them, I'm sure they'll tell you what they need, which is what I did at the Glastonbury tour. I asked her what she needed. And I just sent energy with my dragons to clear the lines. And I actually did some work collectively with the group I work with around the world. And we collectively went to sites and cleared the energy of the matrix. So that's how you can do it. You can do it individually, you can do it as groups. But ask the dragons of those sites what they need. I'd love to know how you get on, so do let me know. Thanks so much. Until next time, see you later. Bye.